Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Jan Hasselman. You are the attorney for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. You've been representing them for years as the fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline basically continues, seemingly never ending, in court. A couple weeks ago, there was a major victory where a federal judge ruled that Energy Transfer Partners, the owner of Dakota Access Pipeline, had to basically shut it down, stop flowing the oil, that it had illegally operated without a proper environmental impact study. But an appeals court, it seems, has kind of pulled back that ruling. Can you kind of explain what happened on Wednesday in the appellate court?
Sure. It's a complicated ruling, and it's hard to explain without getting a little bit into the details. But one way of thinking about it is that the appeals court has moved the goalposts a little bit. It did not reverse the district court's shutdown order. It said that the district court needed to do a little more work. Basically, what happens from here is that the appeals court affirmed that the pipeline does not have a valid permit, that the appeals will go ahead on the environmental impact study. It did forecast that the company and the government is not likely to prevail in that appeal. So that portion of the ruling we feel very good about. With respect to shutting down the pipeline, what the appellate court said is that because the pipeline doesn't have a permit, it goes to the Army Corps in the first instance to say what they're going to do about this pipeline that's essentially operating illegally on federal land and in violation of federal law. If they don't shut it down, which we assume is going to be the answer in this administration, then the district court will have another bite at the apple. So the fight continues. This was not a major setback. This is, it just means that there's more work for the lawyers.
And how does an appellate court, on one hand, rule the pipeline never had the proper permits, which, like you said, would make it illegal, but on the other end, say it could keep operating while it comes up with the proper justification? I don't understand that. If they're saying it doesn't have the proper permits, how does it continue operating?
Yeah, well, you and many other people are right to find that problematic. Essentially, what the status of the pipeline is, it doesn't have the requisite paperwork, and we have to go through some more steps before it's shut off. Now, that might happen through the judicial process, political process. We're a couple months out from an election. Hopefully in January we'll be in a different place where a different administration can treat this in a rational way.
And just to remind viewers, basically, my recollection is for a pipeline of this size and structure, it would have had to have an environmental impact statement. But basically, the company that owns the pipeline did this hodgepodge, making it seem like it was a bunch of separate pipelines rather than one continuous long pipeline, and that way they got around of doing the environmental impact study in the first place. Is that accurate?
That's right, but that is the way that the Army Corps of Engineers does its rules. It likes to look at pipelines as hundreds of completely independent and unrelated tiny little environmental impacts that avoid that kind of comprehensive environmental review. That is a major problem that needs to be fixed in the next administration.
And can you kind of talk about, obviously, a couple of years ago, the report said that the pipeline had spilled already at least 5 times. North Dakota, like Texas, pretty lax in their reporting of spills. So it's fairly unknown. You could have major spills, but you could also have leaks that nobody knows about. What do we know as far as years later? The pipeline's been operational for several years. What is the known damage or spills that have occurred with Dakota Access Pipeline?
Well, you're absolutely right. There isn't any a truly foolproof way to know what's been going on, particularly when we think about the segment of the pipeline that goes underneath the Missouri River. That part of the pipeline is buried fairly deep beneath the river. If there is a spill or a leak in that area, it would take a long time to show up because the oil would have to move through all the soil. And by that time, it would be a catastrophe. There'd be no way to ameliorate it. What we do know is that Energy Transfer Partners in Sunoco, who own this pipeline, have the worst record in the industry for safety, for compliance. They have a lax culture. They're under criminal investigation in Pennsylvania. They've had pipelines shut down in different states. These are not people you want running a pipeline when the consequences are so high. And that was, in fact, a major part of the court case when the district court found that the Army Corps failed to consider this company's abysmal safety record in signing off on this permit.
And talking about the Army Corps, I mean, the bottom line is the original approval didn't happen under Trump. So it's kind of like the Army Corps and this whole process, it's kind of been screwy across different administrations, Democrats and Republicans. So do you have hope that you had mentioned the political winds might be changing? If it's a new administration, Biden, hopefully the EPA and Army Corps and other things have more integrity, that they would basically overhaul the process to actually, I don't know, call me radical, make sure you do these types of studies before the pipe is dug, which and a proper environmental impact study, by my understanding, could take as long as, 18 months.
Look, we don't take anything for granted, but yeah, we are optimistic that there's going to be some changes. We had 30, 40 members of Congress sign on to a brief in the district court urging the court to shut down the pipeline. Some of the people that signed on to that brief, like Senator Warren and Senator Harris, are on the short lists to be Biden's VP. So there's going to be a robust conversation in the next administration about what to do about this pipeline. And it is worth remembering. I mean, you're absolutely right that the original permits were issued under the Obama administration, but we need to remember at the end of 2016, the Army Corps denied the permit and said it was going to do the full environmental impact study, look at alternative route configurations, fully assess the impacts on the tribe's treaty rights. Of course, Trump overrode that on his second full day in the office.
Right. And we should also add, obviously, you're representing Standing Rock Sioux in relation to Dakota Access Pipeline, but the Trump administration has been, open season. They've doubled, tripled the amount of fracking, uranium mining, those types of things. And I would imagine a lot of those projects are also going, if not directly through native reservations, pretty close.
Absolutely. There's been a 4-year assault on environmental protection standards and regulations, the most recent of which is the White House unleashed a set of regulations that fundamentally overhaul our nation's landmark environmental law, which is NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act. That essentially would gut the law's ability to study environmental effects of federally permitted projects like this one. We, on behalf of other clients, not the Standing Rock, we filed a lawsuit against those regulations. We plan to fight those vigorously in court, but I think that's a day one project for the next administration as well.
And lastly, just as an attorney, I'm sure this, is kind of old hand to you, but for people watching at home, it just seems like this issue, and many like it, it's just stuck in court, bounced around, 4, 5, 6 years. What has been your experience dealing with the tribe? Obviously, they're continuing to fight this tooth and nail. Just your observations about their tenacity in this fight.
Look, it is a huge honor for me to represent the Standing Rock Sioux tribe in this. They take the long view. They have never wavered. They've never discussed, backing down or cutting a deal. This is a one of the poorer communities in America. They don't have a lot of resources, and they're fighting just to keep their community together. And yet they are, fully focused on fighting this pipeline as long as it takes. And so, me and the organization I work for, Earth Justice, we're going to partner with them until the job is done. And yeah, sometimes these fights take a long time. We've been in cases for 20 years, and sometimes that's what you need to do. What we're trying to do here is pretty unprecedented.
Mm-hmm. And one more. So the next step would be that the district court that originally ruled that the pipeline needed to shut down, it's now being bounced back to them. And how long does the Army Corps have to respond in terms of when they're going to do the EIS?
Yeah, so as of now, both the appeals court and the district court at the same time, because the appeal will continue. But we have a hearing on Monday with the district court. I expect the judge will set a deadline for the Army Corps to announce its intentions, and then there'll be more proceedings. The tribe will likely ask the court for the injunction that the appeals court felt was necessary, and we'll see.
Thank you, Jan Hasselman, fighting the good fight on behalf of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. We will stay in touch.
Good to hear from you. Take care.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.